Julie Kay here. We are interrupting that previously recorded interview with Senator Ted Budd to bring you something live with Senator Ted Budd. He is actually in Hendersonville for a field hearing, a Senate Small Business Committee field hearing today to discuss Helene recovery. Multiple local leaders and local business leaders. So let's listen and see what he has to say.
And Helene caused almost $80 billion in damage, making it one of the worst hurricanes to hit the United States, ranking alongside Hurricane Sandy and Hurricane Katrina. Here in North Carolina, 39 counties were eligible for federal assistance following the storm. Those counties comprise 40% of the state's population and 45% of the state's GDP. In the aftermath, our state's disaster survivors started down the challenging road of rebuilding. I want to say how proud I am of our state for coming together in this time of need and the sheer tenacity of everyone out here in Western North Carolina who lent a hand and helped folks in dire straits. Frankly, I wish the same could have been said for our federal government, but unfortunately, under President Biden, they were unprepared and asleep at the wheel. The Small Business Administration, or the SBA, provides disaster loans and have been crucial to many Americans recovering from natural disasters. And North Carolinians in the wake of Helene were no different. The SBA gives eligible individuals access to disaster recovery loans up to $500,000 and eligible businesses loans up to $2 million for physical damage and economic injury. These loans help restore homes to their pre-disaster condition and help businesses replace equipment and maintain payroll. Unfortunately, due to the blunders of the Biden's SBA, too many North Carolinians were unable to find the help they needed to simply rebuild and regain their livelihoods. The prior administration mismanaged the SBA's disaster loan program by issuing irresponsible rules and dramatically increasing the cost of making and administering disaster loans. Moreover, as SBA drew closer to exhausting the funds it had on hand for these loans, the staff at the wheel of the Biden administration failed in one of their most basic duties, and that is notifying Congress that funding was running low. This led to an unacceptable 66-day shortfall lasting from October 12th through December 20th of last year. Here in North Carolina, 97% of business loan applicants were impacted by this shortfall. For more than 2 months, the federal government left survivors in North Carolina on their own with nothing but bootstraps and their community to assist in rebuilding. We must ensure that a crisis like this will never happen again. This SBA program is instrumental in the rebuilding process, and once it was back to working, it has served over 3,500 North Carolinians following Hurricane Helene. And that's why earlier this year, I introduced the Disaster Loan Accountability and Reform Act to create more safeguards against a future shortfall. This bill would require annual appropriation to SBA's disaster loan program, inform Congress when funds are low, and increase reporting to Congress. I want to thank my colleagues on the Small Business Committee for working in a bipartisan manner to get this bill through committee. I'm grateful for the many changes the Trump administration has made to address the problems in this program since January, including improvements to reporting, local coordination, and constituent services. However, we're still recovering from the aftermath of Helene. It's critical to understand the impacts of the shortfall last year and what steps can be taken to further safeguard disaster survivors after being left without aid again. Returning Western North Carolina to normal following Helene hinges on our federal government and its agencies working in coordination with one another. I will continue to engage with each of our cabinet agencies to ensure our federal government is responsive to the needs of Western North Carolina. I want to thank our witnesses on both panels today. And I'm honored that you've decided to join us to speak on the efficacy and unity of SBA's programs and ways to improve. I look forward to your testimony. And before we start our testimony, I ask unanimous consent that the witnesses' full statements be included in the record without objection and so ordered. For a quick run of show, I want to note that each of the witnesses will have 5 minutes to give their remarks, and then we'll turn to questions. I'll introduce each of you and then recognize you for 5 minutes for your testimony. Now, we do have 2 panels today, so after our first panel, we'll take a brief moment to let them get up, and we'll have our second panel seated. And we'll now proceed with our first panel. We'll start with Commissioner Rebecca McCall, who currently serves as a Henderson County Commissioner. Commissioner McCall was sworn in on December 3rd, 2018, and is serving in her second term as Commissioner. She served as the chair of the Henderson County Board of Commissioners when Hurricane Helene hit western North Carolina. She's a Henderson County native and holds a bachelor's degree in business administration from Montreat College. We thank you for being here, and you're recognized for 5 minutes for your testimony.
Thank you for having me. September 27th, 2024 will be a day we long remember in Henderson County and western North Carolina. Hurricane Helene hit us with full force. Not only was there an enormous amount of rainfall that resulted in flooding as deep as 30 feet in some areas, there were also 2,000 landslides, 80 of which were in Henderson County. The landslides uprooted giant trees and dislodged mammoth boulders that took out everything in its path. In the Hickory Nut Gorge area, the river grew 3 times wider than normal. Homes and businesses along the river were washed away, as well as the land they once stood on. The power outages that lasted up to 2 weeks in most areas registered to 1.5 million in the multi-county area, with 95% of Henderson County affected. More than 425 miles of roads and 200-plus bridges were severely damaged in Henderson County alone. All of this has left an impact on our businesses. Those that were not severely damaged by flooding or fallen trees were still affected by power outages and, most importantly, loss of business because there were no customers. Even after power was restored, the water receded, and the main roads opened up, we were left with the cleanup and rebuilding that continues today, 1 year later. As a result, many businesses lost weeks of sales. Having been a small business owner, I am aware that 1 week of slow business is tolerable, 2 weeks is concerning, but 3 weeks and beyond can be devastating. There was also the ripple-down effect where loss of sales led to loss of inventory purchases, which affects other businesses, layoffs of employees, and for the county, reduced sales tax income. Within a few days, organizations showed up to offer assistance. SBA was one of those. We quickly established a disaster relief center. SBA had a presence at the DRC to answer questions and assist in application filing for loans. Once we opened those doors, SBA representatives were there to speak with residents about the possibility of loans to rebuild. Our staff conveyed how SBA was there eager and ready to assist those in need. The staff who manned the table were friendly, accommodating, and helpful. We commend SBA on their presence and willingness to help and are grateful for their continued support all these many months later. The benefits of the SBA program, though, are numbered. The paperwork is straightforward and the low interest rate forms are favorable, but when asking people why they didn't apply, the biggest issue we heard was that these are loans, not grants. While recovering, many individuals and businesses didn't feel comfortable taking on another loan that they would have to pay back, especially as they were uncertain about their source of income in the coming months.